The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor like the steam fitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage left, and daily working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. To my surprise and delight, Anna Paulina Luna has turned out to be one of the hardest working, one of the most courageous, and one of the most principled conservatives in Congress. She's definitely not the go along to get along type. If you look at the heart of virtually every crucial issue in this country, she's in the fight. Frankly, when President Trump issued his executive order ordering that all documents controlled by the National Archives pertaining to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York, and Dr. Martin Luther King be released, whoever drafted that order didn't recognize that were many, many documents still in the hands of institutions who had never turned them over to the National Archive for good reasons, such as the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, certain sections of Defense Intelligence, the IRS, and so on. Therefore, we didn't get a full record. And Anna Paulina Luna realized that. She's been dogged in getting the CIA to turn over all kinds of important things that they had forgotten to give us. The records of George Joanides, who I believe, as do many other JFK researchers, was Oswald's handler. But more recently, the travel records of a notorious Central Intelligence Agency operative, Bill Harvey. We would never have learned any of these additional connections of the CIA to the murder of John F. Kennedy, not that they acted alone, if it weren't for the leadership and the persistence of Anna Paulina Luna. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back on, Roger. Very happy to be here today.
These most recent revelations about Bill Harvey, as well as the stuff you ferreted out about Joanides, they clearly established the agency's involvement in the murder of Kennedy.
Oh, most certainly. In fact, if you were to even make that statement just a year ago, Roger, so many people would say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. But without a doubt, because of the really Radcliffe's ability and decision to release these files, at our request, we do now have proof that not only did the CIA, again, undermine, block, and then also to lie to Congress, but they did have knowledge. They were involved in observation of Oswald. And in my opinion, there's a lot of people who think that with these recent revelations regarding Bill Harvey, as you know, Roger, he ran the assassination program for the CIA, but now we know that someone at the FAA had authorized him under false name to come back to the United States. And a lot of people are saying, okay, so where was he on the day of Kennedy's assassination? So without a doubt, there's proof now, and you can see the mosaic for yourself that the CIA did have a hand in this. And it's crazy to say because, again, if you said this a year ago, people would call you a conspiracy theorist, but now we have the evidence.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I obviously, based on my own research and activity in the researcher community, believe that there is a grand conspiracy that involves the CIA, organized crime, big Texas oil, certainly the banking interests, but the man himself at the helm, the man with the most to gain, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who is staring into the abyss. He's the target of two massive corruption scandals, the two biggest corruption scandals of the decades, the Billy Saul Estes case and the Bobby Baker case. Johnson knows he's going to be dropped from the 64 ticket. He knows that he's going to face federal indictment, so he lures John F. Kennedy to Dallas. And Johnson has been the paymaster for the CIA. As the Senate Majority Leader, he points himself to the Senate Committee on Defense Appropriations, specifically the subcommittee where the CIA's black box budget is prepared, and he's been taking care of the CIA. He's obviously the water boy for the Texas oil interests who Kennedy wants to repeal the oil depletion allowance, which would cost them millions. Johnson says he will not allow that to happen. Just gave you big oil's motive to get rid of John F. Kennedy. Unique relationship with organized crime. Johnson is being paid by Sinto by Carlos Marcello to hide the illegal gambling operations in Houston and Dallas and San Antonio. So I think it is a broader conspiracy. You have established the most important part, which is our own intelligence agencies' involvement. I want to talk to you about Ukraine. This is obviously a war that all Americans would like to end. I believe that the narrative given to us by the Biden administration as to why we're in this war is false. This is not about the territorial ambitions of Vladimir Putin. So much it is about the fact that this country signed two agreements, the Budapest Accords, and the Budapest Memorandum and the Minsk Accords, in which we agreed in return for the Russians allowing the reunification of East and West Germany, we agreed not to push Ukraine into NATO, which is to say not to mount NATO missiles on the ground in Ukraine aimed at Russia, also not to have bioweapons labs targeting Russia. And this push by the Biden administration to push them into NATO, which means drop the missiles into the silos that are already built, is a violation of that. That's what I think this war is about. Putin made it very clear that that was his line in the sand. But this idea that he wants to gobble up all of Ukraine, all of France, all of Germany, all of Poland, this is a joke. A joke.
Well, I think it's a lot deeper than that too, though, Stone. You know, what's been interesting, and even just researching some of the JFK stuff and seeing how JFK even had such a good relationship, back-channel conversations with the Russian government, did not want war,
yes.
Was doing everything that he could to really tone down the whole idea of this Cold War going hot. And then you look at what happened, really, I think even predating the Biden administration's perspective on Ukraine with what happened with Russiagate. You, of all people, were subject, to all of that stuff. And what I will say is that it seems as though the Biden administration, we saw in our own investigations when we were in oversight looking at the transaction records, all of the money coming out of Ukraine going right into Hunter Biden and the Biden's personal bank accounts. There was a lot there. But it seemed as also, too, that they were using foreign policy to double down on what they really did to President Trump in 2016. And then, as you know, Tulsi recently released all the files that proves that Russiagate was a complete hoax, right? So you had George W. Bush, you had Bill Clinton, which, to be clear, I'm not really a fan of either president's foreign policies on certain things. But both of those presidents at least had a good open dialogue with the Russian government. And then all of a sudden, we're supposed to now hate Russia. Look, I'm first and foremost worried about the American people. And what I can tell you is that war is not good for us, and it's not good for our economy, especially because we have to we are spending so much money in regards to helping Ukraine right now, which, to be clear, Roger, I've never voted for Ukraine munitions, and I will continue to vote against any legislation that has that in it. But I think that President Trump's perspective on this is one of the best perspectives that you can have, which is that we need peace. And what I noticed, and part of the reason why I've been so vocal about saying, like, hey, hold on, let's actually look at the real reason as to why this is happening here right now. You have so many members of Congress that, part of our job, especially if you're like me and on foreign affairs, is we're supposed to be engaging in the diplomatic conversations, and we should be advocating for America's interests, which in my opinion, in this case, would be peace. But so many members of Congress, specifically the members that have been controlled and really funded by the military-industrial complex, are the first ones out there to go take photos with Zelensky saying we have to maintain this war. We cannot allow Russia to win. Well, first and foremost, how could you ever be expected to be unbiased in your opinion and perspective when you're taking that money that's helping to really tailor your opinion on the matter, first of all? Second of all, the administration's made their position very clear that they want to seek peace. You just had Melania Trump announce recently that she was able to work with not just the Russian government, but the Ukrainian government to reunite 8 children with their families. So there's clearly a want and a need here to pursue trade over war at any cost. And so what I'm doing now, and I think it's not just going to be me, it's going to be a few other members of Congress, is I'm going to, for the first time since the 90s, be leading a congressional delegation to meet with the Russian parliament, the Duma. And so that date will be announced shortly. And then I'm also meeting with a special envoy to the president of Russia actually later on this month. And that is our goal and objective for these talks. Now, what's also been interesting is that, it was NATO and the British government that actually over 2 years ago tried to, and were effective at pressuring Zelensky into not taking a peace deal with Russia. And so my question would be is why is it that the American people, and look, there's definitely evidence of war fatigue, right? Like over 70% of Americans want there to be peace talks and negotiations. But you didn't have that out of Congress, and you definitely didn't have that out of the last administration. So I'm trying to back the president's position on this. I hope and I think that given his track record with ending 8 wars that had sometimes gone on for decades, I do believe that he has the ear and the respect of both Zelensky and Putin. And I do think that he's probably the one person in the world that can actually get this done. And so I'm going to do everything in my legislative power as a member of Congress and as a member of Foreign Affairs to back the president's position on that.
Yeah, this idea that he was somehow compromised by the Russians is so laughable. Who was it as president who gave the Ukrainians Javelin missiles? Wasn't Barack Obama? He gave them blankets. Donald Trump armed them to the teeth. We fulfilled our NATO obligations to the Ukrainians, but we are to the point where I doubt that they can quote unquote win. I'm absolutely in agreement with you. We need to stop the killing above all else. This has been unnecessary. Putin is a tough customer. No one loves Vladimir Putin. He's a brutal dictator, but he's also very smart, and I think he's very pragmatic. And you're right, he respects Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's unpredictability bothers Vladimir Putin, and that's a good thing. That's a great quality to have in a leader. This cannot continue to drag on. The president deserves this Nobel Peace Prize. We can go through that list when we come back, but this is a guy's on a peacemaking spree that is extraordinary with the new announcements regarding Gaza, the ceasefire between Israel and Iran, the settling of the hostilities between India and Pakistan, between Azerbaijan and their adversaries, the Congo and Rwanda. I mean, he really does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think these snotty, elitist Norwegian academics who control this are going to see it our way. They gave Barack Obama a Nobel Peace Prize, and his only accomplishment was killing more human beings with drones than any president in U.S. history. We'll be right back with Paulina Luna right here in The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor like the steamfitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage left, and daily working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back with the indefatigable Congresswoman Paulina Luna, a true firebrand, a great American patriot. Congresswoman, my congressman, Jared Moskowitz, has made over $3 million, I think I'm reading this correct, in the stock market since becoming a member of Congress in a series of reported trades that all seem to surround defense stocks. We know that Nancy Pelosi is now worth, I believe, $153 million, and I would have thought she was first, but Tim Burchett actually told me she was 11th out of the top 10 members of Congress who profiteered through essentially insider trading. When are we going to stop this nonsense?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're asking about the insider trading. So you know that actually how this conversation all came up is that Tim and I were sitting on the steps of the Capitol, and we had actually seen a couple of posts come out from that site, Unusual Whales. And Tim actually has a bill to actually ban insider trading. And so I was like, you know what, screw this. We're not going to wait for them to actually bring this to the floor because it's never going to happen. So I actually filed something called a special rule to call up his bill. And what that means is we're going to have to go collect signatures for that discharge petition. But I'm planning on doing it as soon as we get back because it's gotten so bad on both sides where you have people, and I don't really care who it is, if they own stocks and they're in Congress right now and they're advocating or they're, aware of certain things coming out, that's insider trading. Most people would go to jail over that. And it's terrible because it's happening every single day. And so we're actually bringing forward this bill. There's actually a version of it that is bipartisan and has, I think it's close to 60-something members sponsoring it. It's the last time I checked. And so whenever we're being told by leadership that, and we have been told by leadership that, we're trying to force a bad vote and that we're going to be responsible for the Republicans losing the midterm, I actually countered and said, actually, this is one of the most bipartisan and most popular things in the country right now. And if you're not seeing that the American people distrust government, they distrust Congress, they can't stand us because of stuff like this, then you're not seeing the writing on the wall. And so, look, Roger, I'm not planning on being in Congress forever. I don't own stocks, but what I can tell you is I know for a fact that these people are getting wealthy off of this policy, off of being able to have access to insider information before things happen, and it's not right. And so part of my goal and objective is to go after that government corruption, and so I'm going to try to force the vote.
I think that's very wise. This is absurdity. Mickey Sherrill, Democrat congresswoman running for governor in New Jersey, that's in a few days, triples her net worth in one trade. She makes a $7 million trade. And then when she's asked about it in the debate, she says she can't remember whether she did it or not.
Yeah, it's completely wrong. And it's crazy too, Roger, because they gaslight us. They say, we'll bring it to committee or we'll do this. I told them, I said, I'm going to force it at the end of the month. And then obviously the government shutdown happened and we haven't been back. But as soon as we get back, if I don't if I know, no kidding, don't see a notice on the calendar to mark up our bill, then I am calling up that. And I already filed the rule for it and everything. So it's all parliamentary procedure to say I'm going to be forcing the vote.
You go, girl.
Thanks, Roger.
I love it. It needs to be done. The other great reform we need to do is we need to make it so that people who are in the government health areas, like Dr. Anthony Fauci, can't advocate for a product, a vaccination, or a drug in which he and his wife own enormous interests and make millions of dollars. That should be quite illegal.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, it is not. So Fauci and his wife, both high-level officials at the FDA and the other parts of the health apparatus, are using their power to advocate for drugs that they own an interest in, profiteering millions on the misery and death of others. It's horrific.
It's funny, Rogers. I actually have some of my staff is joking. They're like, why do you have to be so principled? And I was like, well, I'm trying to get us all into heaven. So
there you go. All right, Paulina Luna, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you. Keep up the good fight.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor, like the steam fitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage theft, and deadly working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.